Hello, soft and sound people. So I said I would come on and do a little live in response to Jessie's question about where do I start, and Sally Ann Morrison's question that she posed just before I went away, saying pretty much the same thing. There's so much content, where do I start? Now, I have to be really honest with everybody and be open about the fact that I am not a planner at all, as my life bears witness to. So it's a very difficult question for me to answer, because the way that I go about things with horses kind of reflects the way I go about everything in my life, which is that I deal with the next thing that's in front of me, which probably explains why I haven't got a mortgage or a pension or any holiday plans or any sense of security. But it just is who I am. And I would say that this style of horsemanship that I am interested in lends itself to a very fluid, feel-based, what's happening in the moment approach to working with horses. And I'm aware that that's not for everybody. But I do think that people can benefit from it, even if they want to take a more structured approach to it. So before everybody leaves this live in disgust and thinks, well, this isn't the kind of horsemanship that I'm interested in, I want to reassure you that I've had a conversation with lovely Helen McDonald, who supports this group, who does have a more logical, planning-y, for want of a better word, kind of a brain. And she is going to set up a learning set or learning group for people from Soft and Sound to share ideas about how you plan what you're going to do with horses, and how you evaluate what you're doing with your horses, and how you make decisions about next best steps. And so I really hope for people who prefer that way of learning that will be really useful for you, and that you can support each other in that, because it's where it's not my strong suit. And years ago, when I first realised that I wanted to find out more about a different way of working with horses, I stumbled very fortuitously across Tom and Sarah Widdicombe, who some of you guys know. And me and another person came to watch one of their clinics. And it was really apparent to me that I was drawn to their way of working, which had a strong element of, I haven't really got a plan. I'm going to try to see what the horse does and respond to that. It just appealed to me. The other person I came with said, I want something that's a lot more structured. And so she went off and got herself involved with a horsemanship trainer who followed a kind of leveled system of, you do this and then you get this certificate, and then you do this and then you get that certificate, because that appealed to her brain more. Now, I think that most of you in this group maybe recognise that a very formal way of saying your horse does this, this and this and this, they can take their hindquarters, they can move their shoulders, they can do this, doesn't necessarily reflect how the horse feels. And so the downside to that approach to working with horses is it lose the heart of the horse in the middle of it. It can become very mechanical. The plus side to it is it gives people a pathway to follow. And so early on, for people, when you are first learning about horses, not that anybody is first learning about horses, although we're probably all first learning about horses, but if you're completely new to a more horsemanship-based approach, that can be really helpful, because at least you get some idea of some things to do. And so that kind of approach has been very foundational for a lot of people who've then maybe gone on to make it a more feel-based approach. So they've gone on to turn it into something that is more attuned to how the horse is feeling, how the horse is responding, and they can leave behind that more formal, you do this and then you do this and then you do this. So I have tried to create that a little bit with the video pathways, and I will make more of those. But I'm aware of the fact that the video pathways that are up there at the moment already assume a certain level of understanding between you and your horse. So there's opening a gate, there is canter strike offs, and I can't remember what the other one is now, but I'll make more of them where they try to piece together. These are, if you wanted to open a gate on horseback, these are some of the things that your horse would need to know. And then you can put them together. But I'm aware that even that is quite a long way on when you're trying to work out, but what do I do right now? If I'm not opening a gate, what do I do right now? And so I can only explain to you how I go about it. And then hopefully this learning set that Helen McDonald is going to lead on will help people to come up with their own approaches. And if you are a more formal learner where you want to do things like diarise things, make plans, do mind maps like Helen has created, there are lots of different ways, come up with a reflective journal. There are lots of different ways that you can support your own learning that, are more attuned to you. Because I never take notes when I'm teaching people. For some reason, it just doesn't work for me. I take notes when I'm learning, but when I'm teaching people, I don't, because I'm aware that the next time I see them, things might be completely different. And it usually ends up in my brain, the general themes that we were working on. And then I know that I might not see them for a longish period of time. And so that things might be very different when I see them again, because that's the challenge of working with horses. So this is how I have some vague plan in my head regarding my horses. Let's take my two ridden horses, Fuego and Des. I know that I would like to do something with them 4 or 5 times a week. That is because particularly at this time of year, it's really useful for them to have a baseline of fitness. So that is something that is in my mind. Both of them potentially might have to come to the training clinic with Sylvia Stossel. So that means that they, in order for us not to go there and just repeat the things that we did last time, it makes most sense for me to be progressing their education. So first of all, you have to think about, who is the horse that I'm working with? I'm not going to have that same 5-day-a-week schedule for Elisar, who is only 4. And I'm not going to have that same schedule for Luis, who is mostly retired. He might be coming out of retirement to do a bit of work with Lily, the working student that's here. But first of all, think about, who is my horse? And then also have a little think about, what is it that you want to do with them? Because you can work backwards a bit from there. So I know that Des and Fuego's level of work has to be pretty consistent, and that it needs to include probably 2 days a week schooling in it, because they have a job. Those 2 horses have a job. So they help me in terms of running this Soft and Sound membership. They teach me so that I can teach other people, and they allow me to be taught by Sylvia Stossel so that I can teach other people. So I have to honour the fact that they are career horses. I mean, they obviously have no idea that they have a career, but they are supporting us economically by committing that amount of time to them. If you don't have that same idea for your own horse, you might not have to have such a regime. So first of all, what is it you want to do with your horse? Because that will give you some sense of where you could work backwards from. So say you would like to be able to go, and we've talked about this before, and we talk about it a lot in the Art of Hacking. Say you would like to go on a fun ride with your horse at the end of the summer. Even if you don't go on that fun ride, say it gets cancelled, or the weather conspires against you, or something happens, it doesn't matter, because it's a brilliant way of assessing, okay, if I wanted to do that, what things would my horse need to have in place in order for them to be able to do that and it be a fair request of them? So they would need a certain level of fitness. They would need a certain level of understanding. They would need a pretty good connection with you, and there'd be a lot of practical things that you would have needed to have put in place with them in order for that to be achievable. Trailering, leading, mounting in a new place, getting on and off potentially from both sides, doing some work with other horses with regards to horses in front of them, behind them and alongside them. There's loads of things in a fun ride that would give you some sense of, oh, these are the things that I need to be working on with my horse. Say you wanted to start doing some working equitation with your horse. I mean, there's so many things in there that could give you ideas for your weekly schedule. So you could do something like that, pick something like that in the future. Even if the event itself doesn't take place, it doesn't matter. With horses, it really is about the learning between you and the horse rather than the event itself. I mean, if you're a very competitive person, that might be slightly different, but I suspect if you are, this group might not be of so much interest to you because we are so wedded to going at the speed that is appropriate for you and your horse. So that's one way of starting to plan, and that's as much as I plan anything, it's based on that. I know that those two horses have to do a job, and that means they have to be at a certain level of fitness, a certain level of postural strength, with enough understanding that they can both be teachers in this group and they can be teachers for me when I'm learning with Sylvia. So I hope that makes sense to you so far. And then I think about variety. So I think, okay, each week I don't feel like schooling more than twice a week is fair on them. It's quite intense schooling, isn't it? Even if you're doing it with it takes the time it takes approach, you have to think a lot and you do ask quite a lot of the horse. So I tend to not school more than twice a week, and I try to make those schooling sessions have a different focus. So I might think that one of them is going to be about transitions. Maybe the other one is going to be about lunging and in-hand work. And then I try to make 2 sessions a week hacking. I think it's such a great way for horses to move their bodies. It's such a great way to find connection with your horse. And it's such a lovely way to test out some of the things that you've done in the school. So this is just for me and my horses. And then my 5th session, if I have one, might be a little bit more low-key, a bit of body work, a bit of loose schooling, a bit of groundwork that isn't so specific as the lunging and in-hand schooling session. So that's kind of what my weekly schedule looks like. And what you have to remember is it's my job. So I have to find time in my working day for it. If that isn't realistic for you, then do something that's realistic for you. And then this is the big one. How do I know what to do when I go out and meet my horse? And this is where I know that I have I diverged very early on from thinking that I wanted to be involved in a system that said you do this and then you do this and then you do this. Because what I am interested in and what keeps me awake at night and what makes me so passionate about working with horses is really I want to learn about myself and I want to learn about horses. I don't want to learn about doing a system. So I am trying to meet the horse each time as best I can to recognise what they need on that day. Now, I have a list of things in my head that I can go through that can help me with this, that you might be able to develop your own, particularly when you get into that study group. So the first thing I'm thinking when I meet my horse in that session is, who do I think they are today? Physically and mentally, and it might be that either one of those takes the priority. So I know that right now Des is struggling with the grass a lot. It's making him very bloated. It's doing some weird things to his body. So I know movement is his friend. But I know that right now when I go out, I'm going to be focusing on movement that helps him to relax and move with ease rather than focusing on the specificities of a shoulder in angle. So you might go out to your horse tomorrow and think, oh, do you know what it looks like my horse needs is to jolly up a little bit. Maybe they're a bit slow, maybe they have gone a bit sleepy. So you think, oh, my priority above everything else is just to see if I could wake my horse up. Could they be a bit more present and a bit more with me? Or you might go out and your priority is, oh, my horse is really anxious about the world today. So my priority has to be, can we focus on relaxation and connection? So that's why it's really difficult to have you go out and do this, this and this and this, because your horse is going to be who they are on the day, regardless of what idea you might have in your head for what it is that you wanted to work on. So I can take my broad idea, like, okay, today is a schooling session. We're going to be in the arena. And I would like to, if it's possible, look at transitions. But if I go out and what's most important to my horse is he's really worried about something over there, I'm going to change my plan in the moment to say, oh, actually, the thing that I'm going to be schooling today is myself with regards to seeing if I can ask for my horse's attention. So I can and I will draw up a little list of things that I'm kind of running through to work out what might the priority be for my horse today. So as I've talked about in the recent Sweet Spots podcast, is it an issue of balance, relaxation or impulsion? Though very often those three broad subjects will tell you where to go. So is it that the first thing, hang on, Adam's about to come. No, he's not. He's clocked it. He's not going to come in. Is it that can you use that as your benchmark to start with? Is my horse mentally and physically balanced? And what are some of the indicators that tell me if they are or not? If they're rushing around all over the place, they're not. Is my horse relaxed? And it's fairly obvious usually to work out whether your horse is relaxed or not. But sometimes not, because some of the ways that they might tell you that they're not relaxed is by being very shut down and going very quiet and internal. And then, does my horse have too much go or too much woe? You know, in terms of the impulsion question, that's actually what you're working through. And then, so those are my broad brush things. And then I might choose something to have a go at and see what shows up. And that's really how you can use some of the, particularly the foundational videos that I will, they were the earliest ones that we made. And so they're lacking in audio quality and things, but people said, please keep them because they were the first ones that you did. But while Lily's here, I think we will remake some of them where I'm trying things out to give you an idea of some things to try out. So I might try out, can I ask my horse to bend and move their shoulders away? Now, I'm not doing it to say you will bend and you will move your shoulders away. I'm information gathering. Oh, that's interesting. My horse is finding it quite tricky to bend today, or they're over bending and they're shooting out through their outside shoulder. So it isn't you do this and then you move on. It's you try this and you see what happens. Then I might try a little bit of rein back on the ground or under saddle, depending on what I'm doing. If I'm thinking about those early foundational videos. So I might see, how does it feel if I ask my horse to rein back? Is he released in his neck? Is he able to find lateral pairs easily? How many steps can I ask for? So a lot of those early videos that are in the membership were to give people ideas for things to try out so that then they could find out what their horse needed. Rather than you do these things, check. It was much more like, try these things. What do you learn about with your horse? Come back and ask some questions, and there might be some other videos that can help you go further with that. And that's kind of all I'm doing the whole time. It's just that as you go on, your horse and you understand more things together. So you've got more things to try. That's all that happens, is you just add more to your vocabulary. To begin with, you're maybe at an ABC or a Janet and John stage. And then as you and your horse understand more things together, you can talk in paragraphs or poems. But one is not more valuable than the other. It isn't possible to write a poem with your horse if you don't understand how to basically put words together. So you start where you're at, and then you learn what you can from your horse based on that. So what I'm hoping you might be able to do in the learning sets, oh, that's a horribly formal word, isn't it? Whatever your learning groups or whatever that Helen's going to help support, is choosing some things, maybe from some of those foundational videos or further on, you know, any of you might be looking at transitions or shoulder in. Some of you are going to be interested in the canter module that's coming up. And really, the way that I know what to do with my horse is to see what my horse does on the day. I try a thing, I observe what my horse does, and then I either continue along that vein because it felt like that was pretty good between the two of us, or I continue along that vein because it didn't feel brilliant and I want to see if it gets better, or I try something else. Those are kind of my three options. And I think what I would like to support everybody in the group to get really brave about is just trying stuff out. It's just not worrying about mistakes or messiness or feeling like you're confused or confusing your horse, because there isn't a way not to do that, as far as I can see. And while it can be useful to take quite a systemized approach, maybe to begin with, to give you some ideas, where it gets interesting is when you really reflect on how your horse responded to your question. You are always posing your horse questions and they're always offering answers, and they're posing you questions and you're offering them answers. So rather than just saying, bend, move the shoulders, move the quarters, done, it's much more this, oh, I asked my horse to move their shoulders, could they? My horse moved their shoulders back towards me. They were asking me the question, how does this person feel about having my shoulders coming towards them? So my suggestion would be that you just start somewhere. You might have, like I described at the beginning, some idea of a schedule of things that you're going to do to keep variety in there. So you might decide, I'm going to do one in-hand walk a week, I'm going to do one more formal schooling session, and I'm going to go for one ridden hack and one bodywork session. Maybe, if that's useful for you, if that gives you some structure. And then within each of those, you might just choose something, maybe watch one video and think, oh, okay, I'm going to have a go at lunging. What are some of the things that I can see in this lunging video that I might need to know? And then you're literally just going to give it a go. And then you come back and think what worked and what didn't. And from that, you can think about your next step, knowing that when you go out tomorrow, your horse might be completely different again. So you might go out today and you work on lunging, you try lunging and you think, okay, so my horse needs to take their shoulders over there and they need to go forwards and they need to bend a little bit to the inside if this is going to be useful for them physically. Oh, that's interesting. They're always bending to the outside. So I'm going to try some different things to see if I can change that. Some of those things will be useful and some of them won't. You might go out tomorrow to see if you can progress that and find you've got a completely different horse on your hands. The problem, or not the problem, but the thing that shows up tomorrow might be, oh, my horse is going really fast. Or maybe my horse isn't going forwards at all. Or maybe now they're bending to the inside and shooting out through the outside shoulder. And that's just how it goes. So what I really hope we can do in the group is to support each other to just explore those things. So you choose something to try, you observe what happens, and you either reflect on it yourself, maybe using some of the tools Helen's going to suggest to you and other people in the group can suggest to you. And then you either continue with that and see if it gets better or worse, or you try something different. So I'm sorry that this isn't a very structured answer. Horsemanship, we would love it to be really structured. We would love for there to be start here, go here, start there, go there. And people have tried to do it, tried to create those kind of systems. It, as I said, it can give you a good starting point. It tends to end up becoming quite robotic and quite mechanical if you're not very careful with it. And for any of you who've come to see any great horse person teach, Philippe Carl, Sylvia Stossel, Mark Rashid, any of those guys, Frederick Pignon, you see that what they're doing is coming with some ideas in their head that they're going to try. Kathleen, Lindy Beckham, Jane Pike, any of those guys, they're all doing the same thing. They've got some thoughts, so maybe we'll give this a go, maybe we'll give this a go. They're trying things out, they're seeing what the horse does, and then they're changing tack or not according to what the horse does. Now, obviously, what they have in their pocket that you might not have yet is a lot of ideas of things to try and a lot of responses based on what the horse does. But the only way you develop that catalogue of things that you can mentally flip through is by trying, is by giving things a go. There isn't a shortcut to, I know what to do when. There is only, I try something, I see what happens, I try something else based on what happens. And from that way of gathering information and evidence, you start to collect your own catalogue of things I know about horses that could be useful to find out something about the horse, and then some ideas that I have to respond to the horse. So I wish that I could give you a more do this, this and this. All I can give you is maybe come up with an idea of a schedule of things that you're going to work that are going to keep variety in your horse's week based on what you actually want to do with your horse. There's no use you following the same schedule that I use if actually you have very, very different dreams and aspirations for you and your horse. And all the dreams and the aspirations do is give you some things to try on a daily basis. The destination is never the thing, obviously, as is with life. It's much more about, okay, that might give me some ideas of somewhere I'd like to go. That then fills me with ideas for things to try. And it's in the trying of different things that you learn about yourself and your horse. So I hope that is useful, and I'm very grateful for Helen agreeing to take on running some of these learning groups, because there will be many of you in the group who have much more structured ways of learning that might help you to make sense of my rather free-form way of working with horses. And we are working with sentient beings who are sovereign in their own right, who are going to come with their own experience of the day, their own ideas about things. That means that we also have to be flexible. In our planning, we have to be really flexible if we want to recognise the horse as that, rather than something that I'm going to get to do stuff. So that's what I'm going to finish on, is you can choose some stuff to do to learn about your horse, basically. Pick anything almost from some of those early videos particularly. Give it a go. Come back and tell us how you got on. I'm sorry that might not be as scheduled as you'd like it to be. Oh, so Anne's just saying, having just been to watch your clinic, it's transformed my thought processes, and the variability in reflecting on what I do has become fun. So thanks, Kate. Great, Anne, because that's the thing, is it should be fun. It shouldn't be anything. I want it to be fun. You know, I guess the more I go on, the more I think if we have opportunities to do things that we enjoy and that feel good to us, the better. And one of the ways that we can do that with horses is by being interested in what happens and not giving ourselves too much grief in the learning process. That it's just a grand experiment. So choose something, come into the group and tell us what you're choosing if you want. Use the, Helen's going to set up a Zoom for people who want to join to share this is the way I learn. I know some people constantly write down what they do with their horses. I never do. I have no journal regarding my horses because that's just not how I work. But for some people, that's really helpful. So I hope you'll be able to share with each other and support each other in that. And if you want to come into the group and then say, I'm giving this a go, this is what happened, that might help me then to lead you to, okay, try this. Thank you very much for the people who've joined me. I hope this has been, if not as useful as you'd like it to be, maybe thought-provoking for some of the people. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how people get on, sharing their own approaches to learning. I know, Minty, you've always been great at saying, go to the foundational exercises. Thank you for that. It's that's kind of why I started with them, and I will remake them so that the audio is better. But yeah, just that these are some things that it might be useful for your horse to know. Give it a go. And early on in the membership group, people, because we were all at home, because it was, or we were all in lockdown, so we had a bit more time, people put lots of videos up, just short videos filmed on their phone, balanced on their chair, that then we could all say, oh yeah, that bit looks like it's really easy for your horse, that bit looks like it's a bit tricky. It would be brilliant if people felt inspired to start doing that again. Short videos, not professional quality, where it just then gave me some pointers for, and other people in the group who know a lot, I can see that that feels lovely. What about this? So yeah, thank you, Minty. You have always been a strong advocate for those early videos being helpful, pointers and inspiration when you don't know what to do. And then that then starts to give you information. So Helen will be in touch shortly about this learning sets that we're going to put together. And in the meantime, start trying some things and come and tell us how you get on. Thanks very much, everybody. Bye.